Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Brittany and I go through the tools and systems marketed to photographers. And then together we break them down to see what works and what might be a waste of your time. If that sounds helpful, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. DxO has recently released their Nik Collection 9, which is a creative editing suite packed with a lot of fun, different image editing tools. I've never used the Nik Collection before, but when I saw the release about the new features, particularly the AI ones, my interest was piqued. So I spent some time familiarizing myself with the different pieces of the collection, playing with a lot of the features, and I had some thoughts I wanted to share. First things first, what actually is the Nik Collection? Essentially, it's 8 different programs that are all bundled together. There's color effects, which is where all of our creative color filters live, silver effects for black and white conversion, analog effects for some fun and interesting film vintage looks, Viveza is for making adjustments, Define is our noise reducer, HDR effects handles HDR, and the pre-sharpener and sharpener output are for, you probably guessed it, sharpening. Since I came into the Nik Collection pretty green, the amount of applications within it took me by surprise and was a little confusing at first when looking for those new features. But because each program shares the same streamlined and simple interface, switching from one to the other was very easy to get a handle on. The hardest part for me has been remembering the locations of the new features I want to try, but even then, at a certain point, I've realized I'm really only accessing Viveza, color effects, or analog effects. Most of the others aren't ones I would touch very often anyway, and they don't solely house the latest and biggest additions to Collection 9, so I'm not going to be focusing on the others much at all during this adventure. Before I get to it, I want to highlight how to access these tools. The Nik Collection does have its own standalone programming that we can open up and play around with, but then we can also access it directly in Lightroom, Photoshop, and Affinity. In Lightroom, we can right-click our selected image, go to Edit In, and then select whatever application of Nik we want to work with. In Photoshop, I initially thought this would live in the Plugins dropdown, but it doesn't. It's actually in the Filter menu. Go to Filter, scroll down to Nik Collection 9, and then we choose whichever app we want to use. What I find really great is that there's also Affinity support, which is what makes the Nik Collection a shining star for me. Affinity's raw processing in version 1, which is what I have, isn't as extensive as Adobe's, so having Nik plugged in fills some potential workflow gaps for those that don't want to remain or get entangled in Adobe systems. To access, we'll go up to Filters, then Plugins, then Nik 9, and choose our fighter from there. Now that we know what this is and how to access it, let's actually look at the interface layout. Filters, presets, and history live on the left, image in the center, adjustments, exporting, and preset saving on the right. Once we know where everything is in one plugin, we know it for all of them. It's a real one interface to rule them all kind of situation. If you've used Nik Collection 8, the interface is going to be very familiar. There's sort of no big changes to it at all. But as someone brand new to it, I really enjoy how this flows. The thing I like the most is how we can kind of build our own application of filters. We add the ones we want from the left into our workspace on the right, and we end up with exactly the tools we need for the edit we're doing. There's no scrolling headache past settings we won't touch. It's just a really nice way to work. That said, there are a couple of small UI things that made me pause. Take this little menu caret, for example. In most interfaces, if we click a caret, we expect it to expand and collapse the area it's next to. In Nik, it doesn't collapse back down, even though the icon flips like it should. A small signaling thing, but it had me clicking a few extra times trying to collapse the side menu. Another spot is this warning that pops up when we move from one Nik app to another. The plugin gives a warning to save, which is great. However, the only options on the box are OK to proceed and X to close. There's no cancel and no save now button. So if we read that and realize we should save first, we have to close the dialog, navigate to the save menu, save manually, and then switch apps. A tiny thing, but the user experience is what I love digging into, and these are the kind of small details that do add up. Alrighty, the first features I'm incredibly interested in testing out are the AI masks and depth mask. These options live in all 8 programs within the local adjustment setting of the various filters, and are labeled with a tiny little AI marker. Quick note, some filters don't always give a local adjustments button, but the capability does still reside in all the editing programs. I'm using the Viveza program first for this one because it's the most practical adjustment plugin in the suite, and I feel like it's the one I'd use the most. For my images, I want to do something simple and brighten the couple up a little and darken the background. So I'm going to try object selection and choose the couple's faces. The cool element here is this on-image control panel that lets us make changes right on the photo. The not so cool thing is that nothing seemed to happen when I added the masking. I played with so many of the sliders in the most extreme way, short of lighting them on fire, and nothing actually changed on the image. I also realized the masking overlay wasn't really functioning properly because I could see from the quick bursts of red that the object I had selected wasn't actually being selected. I tried deleting the mask and applying it again, but it still wouldn't work. I also tried doing the AI area selection and the same outcome occurred. I did see a change in my image when I inverted the AI area mask, but that just inverted the entire image, which if it was working correctly, it should have inverted everything but the mask square. So again, not working as intended for me. I also tested this in color effects following the exact workflow from DxO's press deck. Apply a filter first, then add the AI mask to localize it. Same result. The colorize filter applied to the whole image instead of just my selected subject, and inverted everything, including the area selected. Now look, this very well could be something on my end. I can't speak for whether it's broken across everyone's system. This is just what happened during my testing at release. Moving on to the depth mask, this experience was a totally different kind of problem. The feature itself, when it ran, was conceptually really neat. Being able to make adjustments based on distance from the camera via an AI mask is something Lightroom can't do natively. That's a standout feature for Nik to have. But every single time I tried to use depth mask, my entire system slowed to a crawl. Not just the program itself, my whole computer. I couldn't even close the program using the traditional exit program method because it would just be so incredibly laggy, it would never actually register that I hit the X. I had to open my task manager, end the program task, and then everything started to run smoothly again. This happened consistently whether I closed down every single program besides the Nik application or not. And after testing DxO's Pure Raw recently, my computer is fully up to date on drivers and software, so I know that's not the cause. There could still be something about my setup that the depth mask just doesn't jive with, but if you're looking at this suite specifically for the AI updates, I definitely recommend the trial version to see if your system is able to run them as intended. We started off a little bumpy with the new features, which I know can be a bit of a bummer, but we're getting into more of the creatively fun zone, so we should have a good time here. Up next on our little tour is the Halation Filter in color effects, and this might be my favorite feature I've seen in an editing program. It recreates that soft glow we'd get from old analog film with the light bleeding out from the darker zones. This worked really well for me, especially since I work a lot during golden hour and try to get that nice glow from the sun to leak in. Sometimes though, what my camera captures differs from my eye, so when I can't quite get my camera to match what I'm seeing in the field, the halation filter picks up the slack and brings that sort of reddish effect to my images. I also tried it out when seeing if it could help boost the glow from a neon sign. When I edited this in Lightroom and Photoshop originally, I was masking like mad and doing multiple overlays to try to fake a stronger glow on those letters. It worked, but it did take a while to get a more natural look. But in color effects, I just added the halation filter and right away the red heart gets a glow. The catch is that the effect spreads everywhere, and with the current red hue I have set for the heart, the sky and the blue lights get a little funky. So to correct that, I added a local adjustment using a control point, placed it on the heart, got the circle size where I wanted it, so it's just affecting that one spot, and now the glow only happens where we want it. We can play with the luminance, the spread, and the intensity until it feels right for us. But of course, now the blue letters in the image look a bit dull. I could try adding more control points to the one we already have, but because the halation hue is currently red, that would make the blue go pinky. And if I tried to make the hue blue, the red heart would be impacted. So to glow up just the blues, we'll add a second halation filter, change the hue to blue, and place control points on each of the blue letters. Just like that, the whole sign is glowing the way I wanted it to in the original edit. Something that used to take minutes in Lightroom and Photoshop now takes about 30 seconds. That's a real workflow win, and it's the kind of feature I'd actually use on client work pretty often. Color grading in color effects is also a strong addition. It's a single color wheel that gives us independent control over shadows, midtones, highlights, and global color. Instead of jumping between multiple color wheels, everything lives in one colorful circle, which makes quick color passes feel faster and a tiny bit more intuitive. With the Nik 9 release, there's also the ability to use various blend modes, which gives quite a bit of extra control over our editing. These two items are pretty simple quality of life improvements that strengthen the system for sure. Switching programs over to analog effects, this is the Playground plugin. This is where the new Chromatic shift and glass effect live, along with all the existing analog film looks. Light leaks, double exposures, motion blur effects, all the things. Chromatic shift is particularly interesting to me. This filter recreates that color offset look from old print processes where the color layers don't quite line up. We can pick from red and cyan, magenta and green, or yellow and blue, and figure out the angle, offset, and scale that we want. For this sample image, I used a control line so the effect would stay on the love sign in the background and not on the couple's faces, which gave me a subtle bit of coolness without overwhelming the image. Glass effect is the other new filter, which adds glass style distortion to our image. We can pick a glass type, figure out the scale, distortion, and smoothness, and there's even an invert option that flips the effect in a really cool way. We can also use local adjustment masking to apply it to certain portions rather than the whole image. Honestly, I had the most fun in the analog effects application. We can layer effects, blend in textures, and just experiment. These aren't filters I typically reach for in my regular work, but I could see myself getting a good kind of lost in here. If you shoot for editorial work, branding, school projects, or you just want a creative sandbox, this is a really neat program to play in. Putting the hiccups of the AI elements aside, the new features in Nik Collection 9 are pretty strong. I can see the optimizations to workflows, the flexibility for many different use cases, and the potential for this suite to bolster the editing tools we already use rather than downright replace them. All 8 programs in this collection provide something a little different. And while some might see more use than others, depending on how we shoot, there's a solid foundation here for a lot of different workflows. If you're interested in testing out Nik Collection 9 for yourself, they do offer a 30-day free trial, so you can get in there, play around, and see if any of the tools might be an awesome addition to your editing. And if you end up loving it and want to fully commit, one of the rare things that is so hard to come across nowadays is that they offer a perpetual license as well as an upgrade discount. If you do give the trial a shot, let me know how the testing goes in the comments, especially if you got the AI features working, because I'd genuinely love to know what made the difference. Thank you so much for tuning in to this look and mini walkthrough of DxO's Nik Collection 9. If you'd like to see me cover other photo systems and products, let me know by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and hitting that little bell so you never miss my next tech review. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.